The instant I opened my eyes in this new world, a robotic voice commanded me to grovel before the corporate executive and lap up the spilled delicacy from the floor. Now contaminated with jagged glass fragments, the system's mechanical tone droned in my skull. Warning: maintain the submissive persona or face fatal electric punishment. I stared at the polished designer boot about to crush my face and burst into laughter. I was Dante, the rogue physician of the Crimson Brotherhood. I healed or destroyed according to my whims alone. You expect me to behave like a beaten animal? In the following instant, I seized the ankle. Amid the nauseating crack of splintering bone, I raised my middle finger toward the ceiling. Strike me down if you dare, because if the lightning fails to kill me, I will obliterate every single one of them. At the boundary of the afterlife beside the river of souls, I glared at the bowl of murky liquid in my grasp. Rather than drinking it, I hurled it straight into the wrinkled countenance of the ferryman. I reject this fate. I was the head rogue physician of the Crimson Brotherhood. Being struck down by a freak lightning bolt during my transformation was unfortunate enough, but now I'm forced to absorb this worthless narrative in the realm of the dead. Hovering before my consciousness was a glowing emerald book titled, "Thought It Was Redemption, It's Actually the Executive Slaughterhouse." Moments earlier, a repulsive underworld system called the Regret Completion Project had forcibly implanted the entire storyline into my mind. After absorbing it, my fury would have exploded my skull if I still possessed one. The protagonist was someone named Noah Blake. He possessed an ancient healing heritage called the Seven Phoenix Needles and an extraordinary physical constitution. With such advantages, he should have ruled the world. Instead, this pathetic fool spent 5 years as a live-in caretaker for a blind executive named Elena Blackwood. He emptied her chamber pots, scrubbed her carpets, and allowed her contemptible cousin Derek to kick him like a stray mutt. He permitted a fraudulent physician named Vincent Cross to frame him repeatedly. The most absurd part was that to cure Elena's blindness, this imbecile knelt in the freezing snow for days begging for medicine and even consumed toilet water to prove his loyalty. Eventually, he exhausted his very life force to save her, transforming into a withered elderly man and perishing alone on the streets. If it concluded there, it would simply be a tragedy of devotion. However, the epilogue made me want to retch. Elena was never actually blind. She was cultivating a sinister technique called the frozen soul poison. She knew from the beginning that Noah was a miraculous healer. She feigned the blindness and fragility merely to manipulate him. Why? Because that poison required the purest devotion of a solar constitution male to nourish it, followed by absolute despair to extract its power. Noah's noble sacrifice was, in Elena's calculation, nothing more than livestock finally fattened for slaughter. He wasn't her companion. He was her human energy source. Ding. Host resentment levels are extraordinarily high, matching the original host's state at death. A frigid mechanical voice resonated in my consciousness. Congratulations. You have been selected as the replacement for Noah Blake. Transmigrate immediately. Follow the narrative. Use your devotion to move Elena and ultimately sacrifice yourself to complete this profound heartbreaking romance. Profound romance? Absolute nonsense, I snarled, raising my middle finger to the void. I decide who lives and dies. You expect me to be the sacrificial lamb? I'm going to shatter the foundation of this story. Binding system. Forced transition initiated. Please note, you must maintain the submissive persona or face lightning punishment. A blinding white radiance flashed. My final roar echoed through the darkness. Fine. Send me there. Just pray those people can endure what's coming. The sound of shattering porcelain erupted around me, followed by piercing pain in my knees. I opened my eyes abruptly. Below me stretched an expensive silk carpet drenched in a dark, thick liquid filled with expensive ingredients and bird's nest soup, now sparkling with sharp glass fragments. A torrent of memories flooded my mind. This was the infamous opening scenario. The original Noah was bringing the soup to Elena, but Derek Blackwood had deliberately tripped him. Now he was being commanded to kneel and consume it from the floor. Ding. System mission: kneel immediately. Pick up the glass with your bare hands and apologize to Vincent Cross and Derek Blackwood. Reward: endurance plus 10. That irritating voice again. I remained on the floor, but I didn't obey. I examined the polished leather shoe currently grinding into the back of my hand. That belonged to Derek. He was pressing his full weight into it, anticipating my screams. "Well, if it isn't our prize servant," Derek's arrogant voice drifted from above. "What's the matter, Noah? Lost your voice?" Finally finished searching through garbage bins outside. This was the rare delicacy Dr. Cross imported for Elena. It's valued at $500,000. Even if I harvested your organs, you couldn't afford this. Beside him, Vincent Cross added with false sympathy, "Now Derek, don't be excessively harsh on him. I'm certain Noah didn't intend harm, even though I had to leverage connections across Europe to acquire this. It's unfortunate that Elena's gift was destroyed." I gradually raised my head. I didn't display the terrified, obedient expression of the original Noah. I narrowed my eyes, activating the ability that accompanied my soul, the penetrating vision. My sight pierced through Derek's shoe and through the supposed delicacy on the floor. I released a low, cold laugh. $500,000. My voice was dry, carrying the chill of someone who had just emerged from the underworld. Derek blinked. "What did you say?" I surged with energy. My wrist twisted and the hand he was trampling became a vice of iron, clamping around Derek's ankle. I said. I stood gradually, the pressure in my grip increasing until the sickening sequence of grinding bone filled the chamber. "This garbage is just corn syrup, gelatin, and food coloring. $500,000. What currency are you using?" "Counterfeit bills." The sound of fracturing bone echoed through the space. "Release me, you mongrel. Let go." Derek's face twisted in agony as he hopped on one foot, attempting to wrench himself free. Vincent's face drained of color. I had clearly exposed the truth about the fraudulent goods, but he pivoted instantly to outrage. "Noah, have you lost your sanity? You destroy a gift and then resort to violence. Apologize now." I turned my head, my eyes locking onto Vincent. It was the look an executioner gives condemned prey. Vincent flinched, stepping backward reflexively. What are you doing?" "Elena is upstairs," he stammered. "I'm asking you." I ignored the threat completely. My left hand still held Derek's leg suspended like a piece of meat. My right hand reached down and selected the largest, sharpest glass fragment from the carpet, the crimson syrup dripping from it like blood. Was it this foot that tripped me? Vincent was stunned speechless. This wasn't the script. This submissive fool was supposed to be a doormat who couldn't even whisper defiance. Not answering. I pulled my lips back in a predatory smile. Fine. I'll ask him directly. Without warning, I exploded into motion. I yanked Derek's leg, sending him off balance and crashing toward me. As his face neared mine, I grabbed a handful of his hair and slammed him downward. I held the glass shard exactly 1 centimeter from his right eyeball. A droplet of the sticky syrup fell into his eye. "No, stop, please Noah." "Brother, sir." Derek stared at the jagged point, and the smell of urine filled the air as he lost control right there on the expensive carpet. "Which foot?" I asked softly, my voice as gentle as a lullaby. "The right. The right foot." Derek sobbed, betraying his own limb instantly. "Good. Honesty is indeed a virtue." I nodded once, then delivered a devastating kick. I channeled the crimson internal force through my leg. The sound of the femur shattering echoed throughout the penthouse. Derek's expensive trousers collapsed as his knee bent backward at a grotesque 90-degree angle. A scream like a slaughtered animal nearly lifted the roof off the mansion. Derek rolled on the floor, clutching his mangled leg. The sound was absolute music to my ears. Warning, severe deviation from designated persona. Warning, host will receive level 1 electric shock punishment. The system shrieked in my head. A bolt of electricity surged through my nervous system. The original Noah would have been convulsing with foam at his mouth. I simply rolled my shoulders, feeling like I had just completed a particularly vigorous stretch. That's it. That wouldn't even inconvenience a novice of the Crimson Brotherhood, I mocked internally. Shut up. Continue nagging and I'll simply terminate myself. We both lose. The system went silent. It clearly hadn't programmed a response for someone like me. Vincent finally emerged from his shock. He observed the screaming Derek, then stared at me manipulating the glass shard. A flash of desperation crossed his eyes. "Noah, you're finished. You believe you can escape consequences. Vincent had taken several years of mixed martial arts classes and believed he could handle a malnourished caretaker. He roared and launched a high kick toward my head. I didn't even blink. As the wind from the kick brushed my nose, I tilted my head slightly. Then I reached out and caught his ankle. Another crisp sound resonated through the room. Vincent's ankle was twisted into the shape of a broken branch. Vincent screamed and attempted to retreat, but I was already in his space. Expensive bird's nest, correct? $500,000, was it? I grabbed Vincent by the throat and slammed him face first into the carpet of glass and fake delicacy. Don't let it go to waste, doctor. I scooped up a handful of the glass-filled sludge and shoved it toward his mouth. Vincent thrashed, his lips sliced open by the shards, blood mixing with the sticky syrup. Consume it all. It was your gift after all. Don't leave a single drop. What is that commotion? Noah, have you caused more problems? A voice as cold as frozen nitrogen drifted down from the second-floor balcony. I released the nearly unconscious Vincent and looked upward. Elena Blackwood stood there wearing a black silk robe and her signature oversized dark glasses, a glass of red wine in her hand. Even without her supposed sight, she perfected the Ice Queen persona flawlessly. According to the narrative, Noah was supposed to rush to his knees, apologize profusely, and beg for her forgiveness. I simply stared at her. My penetrating vision cut through the dark glasses and the skin beneath. I observed it clearly, a crystalline, frost-emanating parasite coiled around her heart. The frozen soul poison. Right now, it existed in a withered, starving state, its mouth open, waiting for Noah's submissive devotion energy to feed upon. I see, I laughed. Problems. I stepped on Vincent's face, ignoring his muffled groans, and looked up at Elena. I'm simply removing the trash. These two attempted to defraud you with $5 worth of sugar water. I understood you were blind, but has your brain deteriorated as well? The silence in the chamber was absolute. Even Derek forgot to scream. Elena froze. For 5 years, this servant had never dared to address her in such manner. Her face flushed crimson with a mixture of shock and imperial fury. What? What did you say? You dare speak to me like that? Butler. Where is everyone? Break his jaw. I want him silenced. Nobody answered. The butler had witnessed me snap Derek's leg and was currently hiding in the bathroom calling the authorities. Nobody's coming to rescue you. I kicked off the floor, my body blurring like a shadow as I vaulted to the second floor. Even in this weakened body, I was a deity among mortals. Elena felt a gust of wind and then a cold, iron-strong hand clamped around her throat. I lifted her off the ground with one hand. Release me. Elena clawed at my arm, her wine glass shattering on the floor, the crimson liquid soaking her silk robe like a blood stain. Listen carefully, Elena, I whispered into her ear, my voice sounding like a demon's promise. In this house, money used to be the law. But right now, my fist is the law. I could feel her trembling. It was pure, unadulterated terror. In that moment, my vision captured something fascinating. Because Elena was experiencing intense fear, the parasite in her chest, starved of the devotion it required, was being stimulated by her negative emotions. A stream of pure life force and golden fortune was being squeezed from her, flowing through my arm and into my body. Incredible. This weak, depleted body felt a sudden surge of vitality. So that was the mechanism. The more I terrified her, the stronger I became. Who are you? Elena gasped, her soul trembling. You're not Noah. I'm your awakening. I tossed her onto the bedroom carpet like a sack of laundry. Now return to your chamber and remain there. If I hear one more word from you, I'll throw you from the balcony. Elena scrambled backward, her dark glasses askew, revealing eyes that were perfectly focused despite her supposed blindness. She wanted to curse me, but one look at my eyes filled with a level of violence she couldn't comprehend made her recoil. She was genuinely afraid for her life. I shut her door forcefully and kicked the lock, shattering it permanently. I turned back to the balcony, observing the two crippled men crawling toward the exit. Don't stop. I shouted down. Consume every shard and drop of that soup before you depart. If there's a single speck of glass remaining, I'll fracture another bone. You've got plenty left to work with. Late that night, I was sitting in the cramped, damp servants' quarters Noah used to inhabit, conducting inventory. I possessed a gold card stolen from Derek. I had observed his pin through the wallet with my vision, plus an expensive designer watch I had stripped from Vincent. Somewhat ostentatious, but it would finance the herbs I required to strengthen this body. Suddenly, a dull thud and a suppressed groan emanated from upstairs. It was time for the narrative event. A stormy night when Elena's poison flares up, causing an excruciating migraine. In the original story, Noah would rush in, use his life force needles to soothe her, and then Vincent would arrive, claim credit, and assert his pain medication accomplished the work. I toyed with a needle, a smirk playing on my lips. I needed to save her. She was my portable energy source. After all, you can't allow the battery to expire. But how I saved her was entirely my decision. I stood up, but I didn't retrieve a medical kit. I went to the bathroom. In a corner, I discovered a perfect implement, a brand new, bright red toilet plunger. The suction on this should be sufficient. I shouldered the plunger and strolled upstairs. The master bedroom door was partially open. Vincent, despite his fractured wrist, had crawled back and was attempting to force some pills into Elena's mouth with his functional hand. "Elena, please, consume the medicine. It'll eliminate the pain." Vincent was grimacing in agony himself, still performing the hero. Elena was thrashing on the bed, perspiration soaking her hair. "Get away from me. It's not working. I want to strike my head against the wall." I kicked the door open forcefully. Vincent jumped, instinctively clutching his broken wrist. "Noah, what are you doing? I'm warning you. Depart, you charlatan." I walked over and shoved him aside. Elena heard my voice. It was like hearing both a savior and a monster simultaneously. "Noah, what are you doing here? Please summon a doctor." "I am a doctor." I stood by the bed, observing her contorted face. The parasite was frantically darting around her brain, inducing phantom agony. "Want to be cured? 1 million. Transfer it immediately. Not a penny less." I pulled out Derek's phone and displayed the payment code. Vincent was aghast. "You're demanding money? You're a caretaker." "I'm your nightmare," I snapped. "Are you paying or not? If not, I'm departing." Elena's trembling hand grabbed her phone. Under the fear of death, money didn't matter. She unlocked it with her fingerprint and executed the transfer. Payment received, $1 million. Absolute music to my ears. Excellent. Welcome to premium service. I pocketed the phone and raised the plunger. Hold still. This is negative pressure toxin extraction. I channeled a burst of crimson force and slapped my palm on her forehead. The blow was loud and stunned her into silence, but the force surged into her skull, physically dispersing the frost energy. It wasn't healing. It was violent suppression. Then I pressed the plunger onto the crown of her head and pulled with tremendous might. It appeared ridiculous, but with the crimson force, the suction extracted the dispersed frost energy through her pores and into the rubber cup. Elena felt like a sledgehammer had struck her head, followed by a scalp-tearing sensation. But then the agony vanished. In its place was a throbbing red circle on her forehead and stinging scalp. Completed. I removed the plunger with a satisfying pop. Elena collapsed backward, gasping, her eyes vacant. She touched the giant red mark on her forehead, her hair disheveled. "How do you feel?" I asked with a smile. Elena stared at me, her terror deepening. This man had struck her, used a toilet implement on her head, and yet the pain was gone. "Noah," she whimpered, shrinking into the corner of the bed. "You have your money. Can you please depart?" "Not yet." I turned to Vincent. "Dr. Cross, that wrist of yours appears somewhat misaligned. As a physician, my perfectionism won't permit it." Vincent released a shriek and scrambled from the chamber. Madman. Murderer. After handling the domestic trash, I checked the time. 10 o'clock in the evening. In the original narrative, this was when Nurse Patricia, the corrupt head nurse, was scheduled to disconnect my sister's ventilator. All because the original Noah hadn't paid the medical bills. Sophia. As I spoke the name, my heart gave a sharp phantom throb. It was the original host's lingering obsession. His only family, his only sacred boundary. Don't worry, I whispered, pressing a hand to my chest. Since I possess your body, your sister is my sister. Anyone who touches her perishes. I grabbed Derek's keys, went downstairs, and roared off in his flashy crimson sports car. Would I be arrested for vehicle theft? Perhaps, but they would need to be capable of walking to the police station first. The hospital corruption. Riverside City General Hospital, Intensive Care Unit hallway. Still no payment. Has that worthless fool expired? A shrill voice pierced the hallway. Nurse Patricia, a woman whose face was more cosmetics than skin, was barking at the junior nurses. Inform the staff to disconnect the oxygen for that child. She's occupying space and Miss Blackwood has a relative waiting for a bed. But Nurse Patricia, she'll die if we disconnect the support, a young nurse whispered. Then she dies. Is a poor person's life even valuable? Patricia rolled her eyes. That Blake person is just a servant for the Blackwood family. You expect a servant to produce $50,000. A stainless steel clipboard sliced through the air with a whistle. It slammed squarely into Patricia's heavily powdered face. She screamed as her nose bone shattered. Blood sprayed across her white uniform as she stumbled backward and collapsed onto the floor. The hallway became absolutely silent. Everyone turned toward the elevators. I walked out, hands in my pockets. I had parked the sports car illegally across the hospital entrance. Not my vehicle, not my violation. Who struck me? Patricia wailed, clutching her face. Security. Where is security? I stood over her, looking down. Who are you calling worthless? Patricia peered through her fingers and recognized me. Her shock transformed into rage. Blake, you have nerve. You dare strike me. You're finished. Your sister is dead today. Not even divine intervention can save her. She scrambled to stand and reached for the ward door. I raised my foot and stomped on the hand she used to reach for the handle. The sound of finger bones pulverizing was loud in the quiet corridor. If that mouth cannot speak with humanity, you don't require it. I leaned down, retrieved the bloody clipboard, and struck her face again. This is for Sophia. Another impact. This is for Noah. Another strike. And this is because I despise your face. By the third blow, Patricia was unrecognizable, unable to even scream. This is complete anarchy. A flurry of footsteps approached. The hospital director, Benjamin Reed, a balding portly man, arrived with a squad of security guards. He pointed a finger at me with practiced self-righteousness. Who is this criminal? Apprehend him. Contact the authorities. The guards closed in, weapons drawn. I released the unconscious Patricia and turned to Reed. Penetrating vision activated. Lines of data flickered over the director's head. Name, Benjamin Reed. Diagnosis, severe kidney deficiency, stage 2 syphilis, active fatty liver. Recent activity, accepted a $50,000 bribe from Vincent Cross to arrange illegal clinical trials. Director Reed, quite the performance, I said with a smile that made the room temperature drop. You're acquainted with me. You know me. Reed stammered. I ignored the guards and began reading aloud. Director, your health is catastrophic. Chronic kidney failure is one concern, but stage 2 syphilis. Such a shame. Does this relate to your new intern? I observed her earlier. She appears somewhat contaminated herself. The gasps were audible. Nurses and doctors exchanged glances, their gazes turning judgmental. Reed's face turned the color of a beet. You're lying. This is slander. Is it? Why don't we conduct a blood test immediately? I stepped forward, looming over him. And that $50,000 kickback Vincent provided you. Is it still in your office safe? Combination 668899. Reed's knees buckled. He stared at me as if I were a phantom. That was a secret only he and Vincent shared. Who are you? He whispered. I'm here to take my sister home. I pushed past the guards. Nobody moved. I walked into the intensive care unit. A frail, pale little girl lay on the bed covered in tubes and monitors. Sophia. Even in a coma, her brow was furrowed in pain. I walked over and gently began disconnecting the machines. Alarms began to blare. Reed shouted from the doorway, "You'll kill her. This is murder." I ignored him. I placed my hand over Sophia's heart. A soft, pure stream of crimson internal force flowed into her. "Sophia, your brother is taking you home." Sophia's eyelashes fluttered. Her eyes opened, clear but clouded by the shadow of mortality. When she saw me, a tiny spark of light returned. "Noah. You came," her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, I'm here. Nobody is going to harm you anymore." I scooped her up. She was as light as a feather. I wrapped her in my jacket. As I walked out, I looked at Reed. "Tomorrow morning, someone will be examining your financial records. Pray that 50,000 becomes funeral money for yourself." With that, I departed from that place of antiseptic and corruption. It was 1 o'clock in the morning when we returned to the Blackwood mansion. Elena and Vincent weren't in the lounge. One was probably questioning her reality. The other was at a clinic getting his bones set. I carried Sophia straight into the guest suite, the luxury one meant for distinguished visitors. "Noah, is this a princess chamber?" Sophia whispered from beneath the covers, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. "Will we be expelled?" Seeing her so frightened made my blood boil. "This is our home now." I touched her head and retrieved my needle kit. "Hold on, Sophia. I'm going to heal you." The original Noah possessed the skills, but he was too terrified of the Blackwoods to use the aggressive treatments Sophia required. I didn't have such concerns. I used the 7 Phoenix needles. After several minutes, Sophia coughed up a glob of dark, stagnant blood. Her face remained pale, but her eyes were sharp and alert. "Noah, I want a hamburger," she whispered. "You'll have it. A large one tomorrow." The door slammed open. Elena stood there, the red plunger mark still visible on her forehead, appearing both ridiculous and furious. She smelled the blood and wrinkled her nose. "Noah, who granted you permission to bring this child into the guest suite?" Elena's voice was icy. "This chamber is for important guests. She's covered in germs. If she ruins these sheets, you couldn't pay for them in multiple lifetimes. Remove her from here and return to your quarters." Sophia shrank into my arms, trembling. I slowly turned around. I held a long silver needle in my hand. "Elena," I said her name like a curse. "This house is saturated with rot and negative energy. My sister possesses a pure solar constitution. Her being here is performing you a favor, purifying the corruption. You should be on your knees expressing gratitude." "You..." Elena gasped. "You've completely lost your sanity." "I'm contacting the authorities for trespassing." "Do it." I pointed to the bedside phone. "Inform them how you utilize a human being as an energy source for your parasite. And inform them about the kickbacks to Director Reed while you're at it." Elena's face turned white. She wasn't unintelligent. She didn't comprehend how I knew about the parasite, but the fear of being exposed made her recoil. You just wait," she spat, but she didn't advance a single step closer. "Tomorrow is my grandfather's memorial ceremony. If you aren't there to serve, I'll have her thrown onto the street." She fled, slamming the door. I looked down. Sophia was gazing up at me, her eyes shining with something new, admiration. "Noah, you were so frightening," she said. "Scared of me?" "No." Sophia shook her head and gave me a sweet, tired smile. "Noah, that lady resembles a rotten vegetable that needs to be discarded." I blinked, then burst into laughter. "You're correct, Sophia. Remember this." I pinched her cheek gently. "In this world, to deal with evil people, you have to be fiercer, faster, and more shameless than they are." The following morning, sunlight streamed into the dining chamber. I was consuming breakfast. In my left hand, a glass of milk. In my right, a medium-rare steak I'd prepared myself. My table manners were deliberately barbaric. Sophia sat beside me eating a bowl of medicinal porridge I'd specially prepared. Her face was already appearing rosier. Across the table, Elena sat with her dark glasses on, poking at her food. Vincent hadn't returned, likely complaining to his mentor about his injuries. Noah. Elena finally snapped, slamming her fork onto the plate. Who authorized you to eat at the table? Your staff. And that child is making excessive noise with her porridge. My head is pounding. I swallowed a piece of steak and wiped my mouth. Headache. I looked at the red mark on her forehead. That's just the fluid in your brain attempting to evaporate. As for where I sit. I tapped the table. Comprehend one thing clearly. I saved your life yesterday. Market price for that is 5 million. You paid 1 million. The other 4 million. Consider it my rent and board. You're a criminal, Elena hissed. This is extortion. Call it whatever you want. I wiped Sophia's chin. Sophia looked up and said in a tiny, innocent voice, Noah, this lady is extremely loud. She sounds like the woman at the farmer's market who attempts to sell rotten produce. I snorted with laughter. Elena's face turned crimson. The ice queen of Riverside City being compared to a market vendor by a 7-year-old. Get out, both of you. Elena screamed. Butler. Remove these people. Silence. The butler had taken emergency leave and was halfway to his hometown by now. Stop shouting. Conserve your breath. I stood up and walked behind Elena, leaning over her chair. She froze. Elena, do you comprehend why I brought my sister here? I said quietly. This house has witnessed death. Substantial amounts of it. There are entities here. Sophia's pure energy keeps them distant. If we depart, those entities might find their way into your bed tonight. Stop. Shut up. Elena was cruel, but she was superstitious. She shivered, shrinking into her chair. Another wave of warmth flooded my body. This woman genuinely was a premium energy source. Elena remained quiet for 2 days, primarily because she and Vincent had relocated to a hotel while professional cleaners disinfected the mansion after the plunger incident. I used the time to treat Sophia and scout the Blackwood family's private greenhouse. There was a sun spirit herb there. In the original narrative, the protagonist used it to burn his own life away to save Elena. In my hands, it would be the key to Sophia's permanent cure. It wasn't quite mature yet. I planted several needles in its roots and injected some crimson force to accelerate its growth. 3 more days. 3 days later was Elena's birthday and her 5th anniversary of regaining sight, a major narrative event. The Blackwoods were hosting a massive gala. Vincent planned to propose, and Noah was supposed to be forced into a clown outfit to serve drinks, eventually being humiliated when Vincent accidentally spilled wine on him. The day of the gala, Elena and Vincent returned to the mansion. Noah. Elena was dressed in a white haute couture gown, resembling a swan. She handed me a bag. Inside was a ridiculous oversized clown costume with a red nose and enormous shoes. Tonight, the elite of Riverside will be here. You'll wear this and greet guests at the entrance. It's your punishment. If you perform well, I might forget about the furniture you destroyed. I examined the clown suit. Red nose, giant shoes. Good, I smiled. But it's not really my size. Just wear it, Vincent barked. He had a new cast on his arm and resembled a mummy. It's an honor for you. I took the bag upstairs. An hour later, the gala commenced. Luxury vehicles lined the driveway. The ballroom was a sea of jewels and silk. Elena was on Vincent's arm, absorbing the praise. Miss Blackwood is breathtaking. A perfect match for Dr. Cross. Vincent was beaming with pride. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the entrance. Who is that gentleman? He's magnificent. Is he a new technology executive? I walked in. I wasn't wearing the clown suit. I was in a perfectly tailored charcoal gray coat over a crisp white shirt with the top buttons undone. My hair was styled in a deliberately dangerous manner. I had purchased the outfit with Derek's credit card. Designer brand, $6,000. Is that Noah? Elena's eyes widened. She had never seen him stand upright. He had always been a shadow. Now he radiated a terrifying, effortless confidence. Vincent's face darkened. How dare he? That's Derek's card. I ignored them, walked to the bar, and selected a glass of red wine. Not bad. Needs to breathe slightly more, though. Noah. Elena hissed, rushing over. Who granted you permission to wear that? Where's the costume? You are staff. Staff. I looked down at her. Elena, tonight I'm a guest. Your cousin paid for the outfit as gratitude for me realigning his leg. You're not going to be discourteous to a guest, are you? You are. Vincent approached, his eyes venomous. He decided to adhere to the plan. Since you're here, be useful. Pour a drink for Mr. Thompson here. Try not to be clumsy. As I walked past him, Vincent extended his foot, the classic trip maneuver. The original Noah would have fallen, spilling wine on a billionaire and creating scandal. I didn't even glance down. As my leg neared his extended foot, I didn't dodge. I stepped down forcefully. The heel of my dress shoe slammed onto Vincent's toes. Vincent released a strangled shriek. Simultaneously, my hand slipped. A full glass of vintage wine flew in a perfect arc, drenching Vincent's oily hair and white tuxedo. He resembled a victim in a horror film. The ballroom went silent. Vincent was shaking, wiping wine from his eyes. You did that deliberately. I'll destroy you. He raised his functional hand to strike. I caught his wrist midair. Careful, Dr. Cross. I smiled, but my voice was loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. I noticed your balance is compromised. Your gait is unsteady. Classic signs of early onset cerebellar atrophy. He roared in denial. Not just that, I didn't release his wrist. I moved my fingers to his pulse, activating penetrating vision. Weak pulse, sallow complexion. Dr. Cross, you have severe kidney deficiency, chronic prostatitis. If I'm not mistaken, you've been experiencing frequent urgency and, let's say, a duration of less than 3 minutes. The chamber gasped. Men chuckled. Women looked away in disgust. You're lying. I'm a doctor. I'm in peak health. Really? I released his wrist and pointed to his pocket. Then why do you have a bottle of enhancement medication in your jacket? Vincent instinctively clutched his pocket, the universal sign of guilt. Enough. Elena felt the humiliation as if it were her own. Noah, depart immediately. Security. Remove him. You're certain you want me to depart, Elena? I looked at her calmly. If someone collapses, don't come begging me to return. Beg you. You're a caretaker. We have the finest physicians in the city here, she spat. Fine. I shrugged and tossed my empty glass onto a waiter's tray. I'm departing. I turned and walked toward the entrance. I began the countdown internally. 3, 2, 1. A heavy thud struck the floor behind me. Screams erupted. Mr. Thompson. William, are you acceptable? Contact emergency services. Dr. Cross, assist him. I didn't stop. I simply smirked. Right on schedule. William Thompson, the wealthiest man in Riverside, had just experienced a massive cardiac arrest. The ballroom was chaos. William Thompson was on the floor, his face purple, clutching his chest. Vincent rushed over, wine still dripping from his hair. This was his opportunity to be a hero. Clear the area. Give him air. Vincent shouted, attempting to appear professional. It's a myocardial infarction. Retrieve my emergency kit. He fumbled with some medication and initiated chest compressions. 1, 2, 3. A minute passed. Thompson's face transformed from purple to black. He stopped breathing. What's happening? Why isn't he responding? Vincent panicked. Adrenaline. Give me an injection pen. His hand was trembling so violently he couldn't even locate a vein. Move aside, amateur. The voice cut through the panic. I was standing in the center of the crowd. Noah, you're still here. Elena was frantic. Don't make this worse. Worse. I shoved Elena aside and kicked Vincent's posterior, literally. Remove yourself. Vincent tumbled away as I knelt by Thompson. He was halfway into the grave. Go ahead, perform miracles, Vincent spat, scrambling up. If he dies, it's on your hands. I ignored him. 3 silver needles appeared in my hand. Ancient technique. First needle, philtrum. Second needle, heart gate. Third needle, solar plexus. I moved like lightning. Each needle carrying a spark of crimson force. As the third needle struck, Thompson's body arched. He released a massive, ragged breath. He's alive. He's breathing. Thompson's color returned instantly. His eyes fluttered open. What? What happened? He whispered weakly. I extracted the needles and stood. Nothing significant, William. Death attempted collection, but I didn't authorize the paperwork. Thompson was weak but lucid. He observed Vincent holding a trembling syringe and saw me standing there, calm as a monk. He understood who saved him. He retrieved a checkbook from his assistant. A gift for my life, he whispered, scribbling a number. I accepted the check. $10 million. Not bad. I turned to the guests, then to the pale Elena and Vincent. Everyone, allow me to introduce myself. I am Dante Blake. As of today, I'm no longer a caretaker. I've just terminated my employment for wage theft, abuse, and medical fraud. I gestured to Vincent's pocket. If any of you have ailments, rare diseases, or personal issues, come find me. I don't represent the Blackwoods. I represent the Crimson Clinic. You. Elena was trembling so violently she couldn't speak. The servant she thought she owned had just humiliated her before the world and declared his independence. More importantly, I felt a surge of warmth in my core. Another wave of energy extracted from her panic. Elena clutched the edge of a nearby table to steady herself, her carefully constructed composure shattered. The richest man in the city had just been rescued in front of hundreds of witnesses, and the man who did it was the very servant she had trampled for 5 years. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Some guests stared at me with naked awe, others with calculating interest, and a few with barely concealed fear. The Blackwood family's prestige had just shifted, away from the invincible Dr. Vincent Cross and toward the men they had treated like disposable trash. I gave Elena a lazy, almost gentle smile. Don't be too angry, Miss Blackwood. High emotions are bad for the liver. They cause wrinkles. And as for your eyes, I tilted my head. They're clear for now. But if you keep glaring at me like that, you might just ruin them for good. Her hand flew instinctively to her sunglasses. She wanted to scream at me, to order guards, lawyers, and the entire Blackwood group down on my head. But every time our eyes met, she remembered the cold grip on her throat, the plunger on her forehead, and the way her precious parasite had trembled in terror. She said nothing. I turned and strode out of the ballroom, the $10 million check tucked casually into my pocket. Behind me, the music resumed at a shaky volume, conversations erupting in hushed tones, all circling one topic, the mad healer who walked out of the Blackwood mansion as if he owned the city. The story of the servant who saved a king had officially begun.